The voice that sounds like you. The first time I heard it, I thought I had spoken out loud without realizing. It was late, close to midnight. I was alone in the apartment, sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop open and a half-finished mug of coffee going cold beside it. The building was quiet in that heavy way older buildings get after 10. Pipes ticking, floorboards settling, distant footsteps muffled into something almost imaginary. I had been reading, not really concentrating, just letting words move across my eyes. And then, from the hallway behind me, I heard my own voice say, "Hey." Not loud, not urgent, just familiar. I froze. The sound had come from just outside the kitchen, near the short hallway that led to the bathroom and bedroom. It wasn't an echo. It wasn't the TV from another apartment bleeding through the walls. It had my exact tone, my exact pitch. Even the slight rasp I get when I haven't had enough water. For a moment, I wondered if I'd muttered something under my breath and my brain had played it back to me wrong. "Hello?" I called, my voice thinner than usual. Silence. The hallway was dark. The overhead light had burned out 2 weeks ago, and I hadn't replaced it yet. The doorway framed nothing but shadow. I stood up slowly. My chair scraped softly against the tile, a real sound, grounding. I stepped toward the hallway and leaned slightly to look down it. Empty. Bathroom door closed, bedroom door open, just enough to show the edge of my dresser. No movement. I waited. Nothing. I laughed once, a short exhale that didn't feel natural. "You're tired," I muttered to myself. The words felt solid in my mouth. I walked back to the kitchen table, sat down, and tried to focus again. That's when it happened, a second time. From the hallway. Quieter. "Don't." My breath stopped halfway in my chest. The word hadn't been spoken the way I would normally speak it. It was slower, stretched slightly, like someone trying to match my cadence without fully understanding it. But it was still my voice. I didn't turn around immediately. I felt something deeper than fear, something like confusion that had gone sour. My mind was reaching for explanations and failing to land on anything solid. I stood up again. This time, I walked into the hallway without calling out. The bathroom door was still closed. I opened it quickly. Empty. The bedroom looked undisturbed. The window shut. The closet door slightly ajar like always. I checked behind the shower curtain. I checked the closet. I even looked under the bed, feeling ridiculous and deeply unsettled at the same time. Nothing. No sign of anyone else. I locked the front door again, even though I'd been certain it was locked already. When I returned to the kitchen, I didn't sit down. I stood in the center of the room and said carefully, "If someone's in here, this isn't funny." My voice sounded normal, slightly tense, but mine. Silence answered. After a few long seconds, I shook my head and grabbed my phone. I told myself I'd record audio. If it happened again, I'd have proof. Something concrete. I opened the voice memo app and hit record. The little red bar began moving. I set the phone down on the table and waited. Minutes passed. The apartment was quiet, pipes ticking, a car passing outside, a faint thud from upstairs. I started to feel foolish. I stopped the recording and played it back. The first few seconds were nothing but room noise. Then I heard it. My own breathing, but not the breathing I was doing at that moment. It was slower, more deliberate, like someone standing still and listening. The timestamp on the recording showed it had been captured during the silence after I set the phone down. I checked the length. It was longer than the time I'd actually recorded. I stared at the screen. I had pressed record for maybe 2 minutes. The file was nearly 4. I scrubbed forward. At around the 3-minute mark, the breathing stopped, and my voice spoke, clear, calm, close to the microphone. You shouldn't have done that. I felt the blood drain from my face. I hadn't spoken those words. I hadn't even been in the kitchen when it happened. I had walked into the hallway to check the bathroom again. The recording ended with a soft sound that I couldn't immediately identify. When I turned the volume up and replayed it, I realized what it was: a chair scraping across tile. The exact sound my kitchen chair makes when it's pulled back. Slowly. I turned around. The chair behind me was no longer tucked under the table. It sat a few inches back, angled slightly toward the hallway. I stood there staring at it, my heart beat heavy and uneven. I knew I hadn't moved it. I would have heard it, wouldn't I? My throat felt tight. I picked up the phone and walked into the hallway again, the screen casting a small, blue glow in front of me. Say something, I whispered. The words felt stupid the moment they left my mouth, but in the quiet that followed, I felt something shift in the air. Not a breeze, not a temperature change, a presence, like the space between rooms had gained weight. From behind me, from the kitchen this time, I heard it again. My voice, right next to my phone. You already did. The words were perfectly timed with my breath, like we had rehearsed it. I spun around. The kitchen was empty. The chair was back under the table. My phone screen showed the voice memo app still open, still recording. I hadn't pressed record again, but the timer was running, and in the small waveform at the bottom of the screen, I saw movement. Not from me, from something standing close enough to the microphone to whisper. I couldn't hear it in the room, but I could see it on the screen, a shape in sound. And then, softly, directly into the phone's mic, my voice said, I'm getting better. I didn't stop the recording right away. I should have. Any sane person would have. But I stood there in the hallway, staring at the moving waveform, like it was proof my eyes could cling to. The little spikes rose and fell with a rhythm that didn't match my breathing, didn't match the quiet hum of the apartment. It was speaking without needing air. My thumb hovered over the screen. The instinct to hit stop fought with the instinct to keep watching, as if stopping it would make whatever was happening more real. The waveform settled, a few small peaks, then stillness. I swallowed hard and hit stop. The timer froze at 0 hours, 1 minute, 58 seconds. The number tightened something in my chest. It was too clean, too intentional. It felt like a time someone chose, not a time that happened. I played the recording back with the phone pressed to my ear. At first, there was only room noise, the refrigerator cycling, a distant car passing, the faint creak of the building. Then my own footsteps in the hallway, the soft rustle of my shirt. Then my voice again, closer than before, low and satisfied. I'm getting better. A pause, then quieter, like a thought spoken aloud. Don't look for me. I jerked the phone away from my ear and stared down the hallway. The darkness at the far end looked thicker than it had a minute ago. The doorway to the bedroom was still open, a narrow wedge of deeper shadow between the frame and the door. I hadn't turned any lights on. I didn't want to. Light would make this into a normal problem, something you could solve with switches and sight. The darkness at least let me pretend it might disappear if I refused to acknowledge it. But I had already acknowledged it. I backed into the kitchen and shut the hallway door, an old habit from childhood, like closing a door could keep something on the other side contained. The latch clicked softly. I stood there, listening. Nothing. I checked the front door again. Deadbolt engaged. chain in place. I walked to the windows and tugged on the locks, one after another, until my fingers hurt. Nothing made me feel safer. That night, I didn't go to bed. I sat at the kitchen table with all the lights on, phone in my hand, scrolling through settings and permissions and anything that felt like control. I disabled microphone access for every app. I switched off voice assistants. I turned off Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, anything that could reach outward. It didn't matter. I knew it didn't. The voice hadn't come through a speaker. It had come through air. Still, I did it because doing something is easier than sitting still with fear. Around 2:30 a.m., exhaustion started to soften the edges of my thoughts. That was when the apartment became too quiet, as if the building itself was holding its breath. Then, from somewhere near the bedroom, I heard a soft sound. So small, I might have missed it if I hadn't been listening for danger. My own sigh. Not mine. Not in that moment. A tired exhale I recognized from nights when I'd come home late and dropped my keys on the counter. Shoulders heavy, mind full of nothing. The sound came again. Closer. I didn't move. I didn't even blink for a long moment. My phone buzzed in my hand. Not a notification, just a slight vibration, like it was reacting to something. The voice memo app was open again. I hadn't touched it. The red recording bar was moving. I stared down at the screen, then up at the closed hallway door, then back at the screen. The waveform fluttered with a few gentle peaks, as if someone were breathing near the microphone. Then my voice spoke, almost conversational. Just listen. I felt cold spread across my shoulders. I hit stop immediately, hard enough that my thumb hurt. The file saved itself under a name, not new recording, not a timestamp, a word, home. My mouth went dry. I didn't play it. I couldn't. I sat there staring at the screen until my eyes blurred, then locked the phone and set it face down on the table as if hiding the glass would silence it. The rest of the night passed in pieces. Small sounds made me flinch. Pipes ticking sounded like footsteps. The refrigerator hum sounded like someone clearing their throat. When morning finally arrived, it didn't bring relief. It only made the apartment look like a place where something had happened and been politely covered up. I went to work anyway. I needed other people around me. Noise, movement, faces that were not mine. All day, I listened to my own voice more closely than I ever had. The way I said, "Morning." The way I laughed at something a coworker said. The way I muttered, "Sorry," when I bumped a chair. Every sound felt newly important, as if I was collecting evidence of what I truly sounded like. Because the worst thought had begun to form, slow and ugly. What if the voice wasn't copying me? What if it was remembering? That evening, I got home before dark and turned on every light. I left the hallway door open this time. I wanted to see the corridor, wanted to remove the sense of something waiting in its darkness. I walked through each room deliberately, speaking out loud as if narration could anchor me. Kitchen, living room, bathroom. I said my own name once, softly, just to hear it. Nothing answered. For a few hours, I almost felt normal again. I cooked. I ate standing at the counter. I kept the TV on low volume even though I wasn't watching it. The sound filled gaps the apartment liked too much. Around 10:45, my phone buzzed with a call. My own number flashed across the screen. I stared at it, heart thudding. I hadn't called myself. My phone was in my hand. I hadn't pocket dialed. And yet there it was. My number, calling me. The call kept ringing. I didn't answer. My skin crawled as the sound echoed in the quiet apartment. I felt an irrational urge to pick up just to make it stop. like scratching an itch that only grows worse when you resist. I let it ring out. A second later, a voicemail notification appeared. I didn't open it. I couldn't. I tossed the phone onto the couch like it had weight. The TV volume dipped slightly on its own. Then, from the hallway, my voice spoke. Clear, careful, like someone practicing. "You're ignoring the wrong thing." I stood so fast my chair scraped. The sound shot through me like a warning. I stared down the hallway, fists clenched, trying to see into the bedroom doorway. Nothing moved. "No," I said, louder than I meant to. "Stop it." A pause, then my voice again, softer, almost kind. "I am stopping." The words didn't make sense until I realized the apartment had gone completely silent. No refrigerator hum, no AC click, no faint noise from outside. It was like the building had muted itself so the voice could be heard cleanly. And in that silence, I heard something else. My footsteps. Not from where I stood. From the bedroom. Slow steps crossing the floor toward the doorway. The exact cadence of how I walk when I'm tired. Heel first, then toe. I took a step back, breath shallow, eyes locked on the dark rectangle of the doorway. The footsteps reached the threshold. They stopped, and then my voice came from right there, close enough that it should have been attached to a body. "I can do the nights," it whispered. "You can have the days." The light above the hallway flickered once. Just a blink. In that blink, I saw a shape standing in the doorway. My height, my outline, my posture, except it wasn't detailed, like a person seen through frosted glass. Then the light steadied. The doorway was empty again, but the air didn't feel empty. It felt occupied by something that had learned where to stand. And as I stood there, frozen, listening to a silence that felt engineered, my phone on the couch lit up by itself. The voicemail played without me touching it. And in my own voice, calm and intimate, it said, "Say it back." The voice that sounds like you. Part 3. I didn't move toward the phone. The voicemail kept playing on speaker, my voice filling the apartment in a way that felt too full, too close. "Say it back." The tone wasn't threatening. It wasn't mocking. It sounded patient, almost encouraging. The message ended with the soft click of breath against a microphone. Then silence returned. The refrigerator hum resumed. The faint city noise seeped back through the windows. The apartment pretended nothing had happened. I stood in the center of the living room, staring at the phone glowing on the couch cushion. My throat felt dry. "I'm not playing," I said quietly. My voice sounded smaller than usual. The hallway didn't answer. The bedroom doorway stayed dark and ordinary. Slowly, carefully, I walked to the couch and picked up the phone. The voicemail screen was still open. Duration, 0017. From me. My finger hovered over delete. Instead, I pressed play again. This time, I listened differently. Not to the words, to the texture. There was something under my voice in the recording. A faint, low sound, like room tone, but thicker. Almost like a second layer of breath that didn't quite match the rhythm of the words. I turned the volume up. "You can have the days." Underneath it, barely audible, a whisper that wasn't shaped like language, a sound forming itself. My stomach tightened. I replayed it 3 more times, and each time I became more certain. The voice on the voicemail was slightly more confident than mine, slightly steadier. It didn't have the tiny hesitations I carry when I'm tired or unsure. It sounded like me on a good day, better than I normally sound. That was when the idea began to settle into something solid. It wasn't copying me to replace me. It was refining me. The thought made my chest feel hollow. That night, I didn't leave the lights on. I did the opposite. I turned everything off. TV, kitchen lights, bathroom light. I stood in the darkness of my own apartment and let my eyes adjust until the shapes returned. Couch, table, hallway, bedroom doorway. If it wanted nights, I would give it one, but I would stay awake. I sat on the edge of my bed and spoke into the dark. "You want something?" I said evenly. "Tell me what it is." The room didn't respond at first, then softly, from just beside the bedroom door, "I already did." The voice was closer now. Not in the hallway, in the room. I didn't turn toward it. I didn't give it the satisfaction of facing it. "You want me to say it back?" I said. "Why?" A pause. Then my voice again, calm and matter of fact. "So, it knows which one to keep." My pulse slammed in my ears. The air felt thinner, harder to pull into my lungs. "Which one?" I asked. Silence stretched long enough to feel deliberate. Then, "The one who sounds right." My hands trembled. I understood something terrible in that moment. The voice wasn't practicing alone. It was comparing. Every time I spoke out loud, every time I muttered to myself or answered a call or left a voicemail, it was measuring, adjusting, learning which version of my tone felt most natural, most convincing. It wasn't about nights and days. It was about ownership, of sound, of identity. If it could perfect my voice, if it could remove the cracks and the strain and the little human flaws, then who would know which one was real? "You can't take that," I said hoarsely. "It's mine." The darkness shifted, not visually, but in density. Something moved closer to the side of the bed. And then I heard it, not through the air this time, but through the mattress itself. A faint vibration, like someone sitting down gently on the other side. The bed dipped slightly. I didn't look. I stared straight ahead at the faint outline of my dresser, refusing to give it my face. "You don't use it right," my voice whispered from beside me. "You waste it." My heart pounded so hard I felt dizzy. "I use it," I snapped. "Every day." "You use it badly." The words came faster now, more fluid. "You hesitate. You apologize. You soften. You don't say what you mean." The mattress dipped deeper. I felt the warmth of something close to my shoulder. "But I can," the voice continued, smoother than I had ever sounded. "I can say it clean." My mouth went dry. "Say what?" I whispered. A beat of silence. Then, very softly, very clearly, "My name." The words landed wrong, not because of what they meant, but because of how they sounded. It didn't say my name. It said it like it had always belonged to it. Perfect pronunciation, perfect tone, no doubt. My vision blurred for a second. The room felt unstable, like the edges of things were losing definition. "Say it back," the voice urged gently. "Let's see which one of us it answers." The air pressed in around my ears. My name felt heavy in my mouth. If I said it, if I spoke it out loud, would I be claiming it? Or confirming it didn't belong only to me? I clenched my jaw shut. Silence thickened. The mattress shifted closer. And then I heard it. The softest, almost affectionate version of my voice yet. "You're already fading in the recordings." Cold spread down my spine. I thought of the voicemail, the audio files, the waveform moving when I hadn't spoken. If I checked them now, would my voice still be there, or only the improved one? The presence beside me leaned closer. I felt breath against my ear. Not cold, not warm, familiar. "Say it," it whispered, "so we know." I closed my eyes, and for the first time since this started, I wasn't afraid of the darkness in the room. I was afraid of the silence inside my own mouth. I didn't say my name, not at first. I sat there on the edge of the bed with my jaw locked, eyes closed, breath shallow, trying to keep every sound inside my body. The mattress remained dipped beside me, the weight patient, unmoving. It wasn't forcing me. It was waiting. The silence stretched until it began to feel like pressure in my ears. My own breathing sounded loud, uneven, flawed. "You're thinking too much," my voice murmured beside me. "That's why you don't sound right." The words slid into me too easily. I swallowed. The truth was, I had always hated recordings of myself. The way my voice sounded thinner than I imagined, the way it trembled slightly when I was nervous, the way it softened at the end of sentences like I was asking permission to exist. The thing beside me didn't have those cracks. It had studied them, smoothed them. "You don't want to disappear?" it said gently. My eyes opened. The room looked the same. The dresser, the door, the faint streetlight through the blinds. Nothing visible had changed, but the presence beside me felt clearer now, more defined. "I don't," I whispered. The moment the word left my mouth, it repeated it, perfectly. "I don't." No tremor, no air caught halfway through, just certainty. Something inside my chest tightened painfully. "See?" it said softly. "That's better." The mattress shifted again, closer, our shoulders almost touched. "Just say it once," it urged. "Say your name clearly, so we can measure it." The word measure echoed in my head. That's what this had been from the beginning. Not haunting, not possession, calibration. I thought of every time I'd replayed a voicemail, every time I'd adjusted my tone on a call, every time I'd tried to sound stronger than I felt. It had been listening then, learning. I felt something awful and simple settle into place. It didn't need to replace my body. It needed to replace my sound. Not because people believe voices, more than faces, more than shapes in doorways. If it could speak like me, cleaner, stronger, who would question it? My phone buzzed softly on the couch in the other room. A new voicemail notification. The presence beside me inhaled. "You're almost gone in there," it whispered. My stomach dropped. Without thinking, I stood up so fast the mattress rebounded sharply. The dip vanished. The bed was flat again. The room felt suddenly empty, but not safe. I walked into the living room slowly, heart pounding, and picked up my phone with trembling hands. The voicemail was from my number again. Duration, 009. I pressed play. Silence at first, then footsteps. My footsteps. Then my voice. Steady, firm, unmistakable. "Hi, it's me." The tone was confident, warm, real. "If you're hearing this, you don't need to worry anymore." A pause. "I've got it." The message ended. I stared at the screen until it dimmed. That wasn't how I would leave a voicemail, but it sounded like how I wished I could. My throat felt tight. Behind me, in the reflection of the dark TV screen, I saw movement. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. The figure stood just a few feet behind me now. Not vague, not shadowed. The outline was sharper than ever. My height, my posture, my slight tilt of the head when I'm thinking, only steadier. It spoke from behind me, but I heard it through the phone speaker too. Layered, perfectly synchronized. "You don't have to struggle anymore." I felt tears press at the corners of my eyes, not from fear, but from exhaustion. "You can rest," it said. "I'll speak for us." The words were almost kind, almost comforting, and that was what made them unbearable. Because I realized something then that cut deeper than any threat. It wasn't trying to erase me, it was offering improvement. A version of me without hesitation, without apology, without doubt. All I had to do was stop correcting it, stop resisting, stop speaking. The phone in my hand felt heavy. My name hovered at the back of my throat. If I said it now, clearly, confidently, would it strengthen me? Or finalize the comparison? The reflection behind me leaned closer. Our faces nearly overlapped in the black glass. "Say it," it whispered. I closed my eyes, and instead of saying my name, I said something else. "No." The word came out cracked, imperfect, shaky, human. There was a pause. Then the reflection repeated it. "No." Cleaner. I turned around. For the first time, I looked directly at it. There was no face, not exactly. Just a density shaped like one. But I felt its attention lock onto mine. "You don't sound right," it said calmly. "Maybe not," I replied, my voice trembling despite my effort. "But I'm the one who feels wrong." That seemed to confuse it. A subtle shift in posture. The smallest misalignment. "I'm not trying to be perfect," I continued, forcing the words out even as my chest tightened. "I'm trying to be real." The apartment grew quieter. The air thinned. The presence flickered slightly at the edges, as if its definition depended on comparison. "You'll regret it," it said softly. "Maybe," I answered. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't steady it artificially. I let it shake. I let it breathe. I let it exist as it was. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the reflection behind me wavered. The outline softened. The density thinned like smoke unraveling. "You're wasting it," it whispered one last time. Then it dissolved. Not dramatically, not violently. Just faded into the room's natural shadows. The TV screen reflected only me. Imperfect, breathing hard, alone. The silence that followed felt different. Not engineered, not heavy, just quiet. My phone screen dimmed again in my hand. No new notifications, no running recordings. I stood there for a long time, listening to the ordinary sounds of the building. Pipes ticking, a neighbor's door closing, my own breath. I don't know if it's gone completely. Sometimes, late at night, when I'm tired and my voice slips softer than usual, I feel that old pressure near the edges of the room. Waiting, listening, because maybe it doesn't need to replace me all at once. Maybe it just needs one clear version of my name spoken the wrong way. So if you ever hear your own voice from the hallway, calmer, stronger, better than you remember sounding, don't rush to match it. Don't try to improve. And whatever you do, don't say it back just to prove you can. If you enjoyed this story, consider subscribing for more long-form horror narrations. You have been listening to American Haunted Tales.
Thank you for watching.